And that is the reason why I have set up my campaign.
Well, let's get to your website then. Let's read out your website. Your website is called www.joininghandsinhealth.com. Joininghandsinhealth.com. So if anybody wants to learn about your campaign, they can go there.
But it's primarily to make people aware of what is really happening, because there's so many hidden agendas. The majority of people are living, we're walking into literally a nightmare. There's lots and lots of small businesses who are not even aware of what is happening. And we need to all come together. Whether it's Joining Hands, there's a lot of campaigns out there, come together so that we can try to get the government not to take on these new EU regulations and to create a new legal framework that will protect natural foods, herbal supplements, and so forth forever. But more importantly, to protect our health. And this is why I thought this program was very important, to make so many people aware of what is happening and what is going to take place if we don't start educating ourselves.
So I suppose the bottom line is that we're just basically all losing our choice. Whether or not herbal products work, you know, it should be my choice or your choice to decide to take those herbal products for a beneficial...
Yes, to improve your health.
...reason that we see. You know, if we think there's a beneficial reason for taking these products.
On the condition they're not intrinsically unsafe. And the difficulty we have with the model that's existing now is that the baby is being thrown out with the bathwater. There are many herbs. If you look at, for example, the restrictions now under the novel food law in Europe, this is a law that was specifically brought in 1997 to protect consumers from GMOs. And then they developed a separate regulatory regime for GMOs, and now it's being used to capture those foods and herbal products that have not had significant use prior to the date of this law coming into force.
But they're not novel, are they, if they're natural products? If they're herbs that have been around for millennia?
Wait for it, they're novel in the EU. And
well, because they happen to be from Africa or Asia.
If they've been used in Polynesia, in Indonesia, in Thailand, in the Caribbean, and they haven't been used within the EU to a significant extent before the 15th of May 1997, they are illegal. And we're seeing case after case being brought using this particular Trojan horse.
Oh dear.
It's complicated enough for the ordinary lay person to try to even begin to fathom what is happening.
Well, I mean, it's been like this for some time, though. If you go into a health food store, and again, I won't mention any brands, and they've got shelves and shelves full of products, and all it says on the label of the product is, you know, the name of the herb or the ingredient or the mixture of herbs and ingredients, but it never says this is great if you've got gout, for instance, or this is great if you've got a headache, or it doesn't say, does it? You have to look up somewhere else.
Well, this is why the internet has become an incredibly important resource for consumers, and of course, under the new nutrition and health claims regulation, it will directly impact the consumer. There's a case in Denmark which was referred by the Danish court to the European Court of Justice, where a journalist that has no association at all with a company that sells rosehip products made the association on his website between rosehips and gout and arthritis, two diseases, disorders. And the regional Danish court first challenged him basically for making an advertising claim for a medicine and criminalized him. And in order to...
They prosecuted him
criminally. And they then shunted the case over to the European court, and Freddie Dagmar then had his entire case looked at by the court. You know that the Advocate General in the case provides an opinion. The Advocate General provided a pretty sensible opinion earlier this year, saying that, you know, if you call this chap, this journalist who's got a great interest in natural products, an advertiser, and then he's made this medicinal claim, even if he has no association, you really start to impact the freedom of the press. So it was a sensible decision. In 80% of cases, the court follows the advice of the Advocate General. We took a case through and had the same thing, the European Food Supplements Directive in the European Court.
Okay.
In our case as well, the Advocate General ruled that the directive should be overturned, and then the court went the other way. So in Freddie Dagmar's case, the journalist in Denmark, the court ruled that the Danish court was in fact right, and that someone, even if they have no financial or other connection with a product, is deemed to be advertising if they associate particularly the product or some sort of presentation of that product on a website, and that would apply to the media, the television,
so
and
is this
else.
law in the UK now?
So because it's gone through the European Court, as you know, the European Court is the supreme court and has supreme authority. In actual fact, it does mean through precedent, it is law everywhere, and it is an extraordinary infringement
so
on
that means
the freedom of the
that
press.
if a journalist in the UK says eating cherry tomatoes is good for your health, and I'm not making that claim, by the way, I have no idea about cherry tomatoes, they could be prosecuted.
Exactly. The thinking behind it is not so much on the cherry tomatoes, but a particular brand of cherry tomatoes.
Well,
because it has to be
breed,
a product.
like a...
So if you have a brand, or you have a brand of pomegranate juice, and as you know, there has been a real tradition, particularly in the UK tabloids, to have health pages in newspapers that discuss all sorts of health topics, and independently the editorial runs advertisements, you know, editorials essentially that talk about specific products. If they so much
these are the advertorials you're talking about?
Well, they're not strictly
partly paid for, or
no. These I'm talking about completely independent editorial about products. This would become liable under the ruling of the European Court now. So there are very significant changes. We're seeing this process of political gradualism where these changes occur slowly over time. What we're seeing in the next year and the year after are some of the biggest, most profound changes in terms of how laws affecting natural health products will impact the consumer. So this is the time for people to be really aware what's going on. This is the time for people to use what's left of the democratic process, because under the Lisbon Treaty in particular, all public health issues will be controlled centrally through Europe. This is the time not to see your MP, but to see your member of the European Parliament.
Yeah.
But we're going to have, we have already adopted the Lisbon Treaty without any say-so from the British public. So, you know, I know that, I mean, I don't really want to talk about political parties, but is it likely that any change is going to happen? You know, are our MEPs going to have any power?
There is